and fill our viewers in. I'm reminded that, and you're right, they're there in the middle of a pandemic when I'm scared to go to the grocery store without my mask on. These games really are about sort of our shared humanity. They give us people to cheer for.
Yeah, I think that's how we should watch it. I mean, I'll get beyond we shouldn't be there. We are there. A lot of these young athletes are fulfilling their dreams. It's great. And the picture of the two athletes cheering out, you know, the way the IOC is, they'll kick them out the Olympics, you know. For sharing. What do you mean sharing? You know. But I know. I
sharing? Yeah.
Is sharing? You kidding me? You know, no, I just think that's just a great moment. And even so for Simone to take a break and say, you know, it's okay for all of us. You know, and all of us in our industry, particularly, our whole thing was grinding and pushing through. She said, you know what? You know, I want to just take a break. Sometimes you need to step away because, you know, the games will go on. Our corporations will go on. So, you know, I really respect her tremendously. I respect, I respect all the athletes who are there tremendously. You know, less respect for these institutions that run these games, but that's another segment for another time.
To be continued. Bill, I'm going to call on you this week. We'll watch together at night, and we're going to ask you to come back and spend some more time with us this week as we head into the final days. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today. We will be right back.
How do I know that you're not a weirdo? I knew you were a weirdo.
Scene 2, rated PG.
I think I can. 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 I think I can.
Turn up the heat.
Now there's a new way Experian Boost can raise your credit scores.
I boosted my FICO score 35 points.
I used the Experian app in my Netflix account to boost my credit by
Now paying for Netflix, Hulu, and more can boost your credit scores. Download the Experian app now. Technology is easier to use.
Here we go!
Barriers don't stand a chance. That's why we'll stop at nothing to deliver our technology as a service.
It's my time to come alive.
Blunders, they're how we learn. But investment blunders are a costly lesson that can hurt.
Supposed to blow up.
Decisions like trying to time the market, placing big bets on a single stock, or letting politics and elections influence your investments. Fisher Investments has gathered the 13 worst blunders and how to avoid them in this eye-opening free guide.
Why take a chance?
Come on, baby.
Let Fisher Investments send you our free guide, 13 retirement investment blunders to avoid, like running short of money in retirement, or working with a money manager who's not a fiduciary. Call now, 1-800-260-2917.
Fisher Investments has helped thousands avoid costly blunders and achieve a comfortable retirement. If you got $500,000 or more to invest, call now.
Call Fisher Investments now for your free guide. 1-800-260-2917.
Don't just retire. Retire well.
2 dynamic voices are on weekend mornings on MSNBC. Saturdays, Tiffany Cross takes on today's crucial issues. And Sundays, Jonathan Capehart asks the most pressing questions of our biggest newsmakers. The Cross Connection and The Sunday Show. Live Saturdays and Sundays beginning at 10 on MSNBC.
thank you so much for letting us into your homes during these truly extraordinary times. We are grateful. The Beat with Ari Melber starts right now. Hi, Ari. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Thank you, Nicole, and welcome to The Beat. I am Ari Melber. We're tracking several stories right now. COVID surging, but good news is the U.S. also hits a vaccine milestone. Later, we have an exclusive special report on tonight for you about civil rights and U.S. policing. We have new reporting and an important look at the evidence. Our top story, though, as we begin the week, is the investigation that Donald Trump and Republican leaders didn't want to happen, but which continues full steam ahead after Speaker Pelosi outmaneuvered Republican leaders and after that first hearing. Investigators on the committee say they will use its legal power to compel testimony.
Well, I would expect to see a significant number of subpoenas for a lot of people. I want to know what the president was doing every moment of that day after he said, I'm going to walk with you to the Capitol. If anybody's scared of this investigation, I ask you one question. What are you afraid of?
What are you afraid of? Well, Republican Representatives McCarthy and Jordan already admitted to basically speaking with Trump that day, which would make them interesting witnesses at least. But there is very little precedent on whether Congress can force its own members to testify if they refuse in this kind of setting. The Washington Post reporting on the intricate details there. So if the committee does demand representatives testify, prepare for a legal brawl. And this is not like some of the battles that we all remember or lived through from the days of the Trump White House, which tried to blatantly defy clear precedent that executive officials do have to comply with reasonable oversight by Congress, the other branch of government. In fairness and in accuracy here, let's be clear, this would be different. This would be a fight within one branch of Congress, one branch of government, Congress itself patrolling itself. And as a legal matter, the January 6th committee, including the member you just heard, they have some pretty strong arguments that these subpoenas will be valid to get to the bottom of a dangerous attack on democracy itself with extreme violence. But if those Republican members oppose testifying, they would also have a strong legal counter-argument that their peers, who are their equals in Congress, cannot threaten them with jail over testifying. Because when you have a legal fight, you have to look at where you're going, and down the road of a subpoena is a court compelling you to basically answer it or go to jail. That's how subpoenas are enforced. So this is a novel and interesting legal clash. It would make for a major dilemma. It's not clear yet if Speaker Pelosi has decided whether she thinks as a substantive matter or for any other considerations it would be worth the committee's energy to go down this road. We have a lot to get into here, so I want to bring in our experts off the top. Neil Kochow, former acting Solicitor General for the Obama administration, and Melissa Murray, NYU law professor. Good evening to both of you. Neil, it's very clear that the committee is working and that a lot of these questions are important. They're going to go forward on subpoenas. What do you think of a relatively novel legal dilemma or question here if the House wants to go this route?
Well, Ari, I think Jim Jordan probably didn't have a subpoena in mind when he asked to get involved with the select committee, but it's certainly what he deserves. And I think what you're seeing is a serious committee that wants to get to the bottom and get to the truth, and it's not a partisan thing. The Republicans like Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney who also want to get to the bottom of this, so it's not just, a bunch of Democrats. And I agree with you, what you said at the outset, which is it is a somewhat novel question. I don't think it's right to say, well, because it's true. It's not like Trump's totally bogus claims of immunity that he's been making for 4 years and that have lost all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court. It's not that bad, but, it is pretty clear to me that Congress, if they authorize these subpoenas, should get it. Both the text of the statute, Section 192 and 194, as well as the Ethics in Government Act, I think all permit it. So, yes, you're right, it hasn't been tested in the courts. That's because people in Congress tend to tell the truth when they're subpoenaed. They don't, clam up and, turn into Dracula afraid of sunlight, but that's what Trump and his ilk are all about.
Professor Murray, I know you're familiar with the legal Socratic method. Neil Kochow is way beyond that in his illustrious career, but I'm sure your students could learn something from him because he came not only with the answers, but with the, shout out to 192 and exactly where he sees the legal authority for this. But I ask you, in fairness, whether one likes this dilemma or not, by which I mean whether one thinks, well, of course, for January 6th, you should have all the answers. I think that's a very strong argument. Judges and the courts tend to care a lot about, well, wait, what are the larger democratic imperatives here? Because you certainly don't have the founders envisioning members of Congress just routinely using the committee process to subpoena each other. I'm curious what you think here, and whether also, while we're at it, you think it's a good use of the committee's time.
Well, first I'll give Professor Katyal an A+ based on the facts and evidence. Very good application of the doctrine to the facts. But as you say, Ari, this is an unusual situation. We typically see these kinds of clashes, or at least we saw these kinds of clashes with the Trump administration being inter-branch conflicts, not necessarily intra-branch conflicts. And that, of course, is quite different. I think we also have to deal with the fact that although Professor Katyal has laid out what should happen, this is a situation where it's very likely that the members of Congress who will be subpoenaed will not comply. They may even light these subpoenas on fire to make a true spectacle of all of this. So
New York comes save your buddy.
When you have that kind of recalcitrance within the Congress itself, and that's something we haven't seen. And again, as you say, it's something that I think courts will have to take seriously. This kind of negotiation between the branches is what we typically see. We did not see that during the Trump administration. Instead, we saw these removed to the courts. I think we'll likely see that removed to the court here. But again, there are larger issues at play about the oversight process more generally.
Yeah, and that also brings us to how the courts have to deal with many aspects of this, Neil. I wanted to dig into another part of the prosecutions that we're seeing of people who trespassed very, very vividly, very obviously on camera, and did allegedly worse crimes on the insurrection day. It was the ultimate sort of tragic and at times disgusting representation of the fact that Donald Trump isn't joking, isn't entertaining, but is deadly serious, and I use that word deliberately, when he tells people to do things, and they take him seriously. Some of the officers' testimony talked about that, likening him to a hitman. So now we see the outcome of that in courts, where defense lawyers are trying to say, well, if the sitting president told you to do it, maybe you did it under that authority. So you have this argument in one court hearing. You have the argument that a public authority defense could apply, arguing that some of these clients believe the government, through then President Trump, had legally sanctioned.
Come on, girl, you're supposed to help me tonight.
I can imagine, I can't hear.
It's supposed to be their sniper. I can't kill everybody
live, although I'm glad they're watching and listening, Neil. But I could imagine some screaming things towards the television that you can't say on television because it sounds like BS. But it is happening in court. Walk us through what it means when people who followed what they thought Trump wanted them to do are now saying this should be their get-out-of-jail-free card.
Okay, I will. I just want to say one thing, though, about what Melissa said, which is really important. So there's two ways Congress can enforce a subpoena. One is that 192 process going to courts. The other is they have an inherent contempt power on their own. It doesn't involve going to court. They can do it without the courts whatsoever, and particularly when it's intra-branch, a dispute only within the Congress as opposed to Congress versus the executive. That's another path that they should think about seriously. Now, with respect to your question here about these January 6th insurrectionists, they're invoking what's called the public authority defense, the idea that Trump made us do it. We thought we were following his orders. And that's a really hard defense in the law to succeed. It was used like in the Lindbergh baby case. It's a case I teach in criminal law, but it's really, really a tough defense. But here's, I think, the real problem for the defense. It starts to implicate Donald Trump directly. I mean, this defense is, I'm an insurrectionist, but I was acting under Trump's orders. That's obviously counter to his message, which is, oh, I told them to all be peaceful, or whatever nonsense he says. He ultimately claimed he said on January 6th. So I think it's a real thing to watch, because I think it can give ammunition to the prosecutors as they start to look at Trump's involvement in the House investigators.
I mean, it's fascinating you say that, because it ties to exactly a similar argument we're hearing from someone who may not be yet in the same camp of January 6th defendants, but Rudy Giuliani says he did everything at the behest of Donald Trump. They're putting out leaking without financial substantiation yet, but putting out information that he needs money while Trump has $100 million that he raised. Giuliani was out discussing things in the context of the 9/11 anniversary, or memorial, I should say. But now he's pushing back over this argument that he may have illegally acted as a foreign agent. Here he was.
I'm more than willing to go to jail if they want to put me in jail. And if they do, They're going to suffer the consequences in heaven. I'm not. But I didn't do anything wrong.
Why are you willing to go to jail if you feel that you're innocent?
Because they lie. And they cheat. I committed no crime. And if you think I committed a crime, you're probably really stupid, because you don't know who I am.
And Neil, as mentioned, they were seated outside dealing with some of the 9/11 stuff, but he didn't say what he could have said. I mean, he's a lawyer. He knows. He could have said, look, it's an open probe. The facts will out. He's going on that kind of speech again. Now, I'm curious your reaction to all of it, as well as the related apparent frustration in his camp that Donald Trump isn't helping him pay for what has become a very expensive legal defense.
I mean, first of all Giuliani said all this unsolicited during an interview about the 20th anniversary of 9/11. It's almost like he's trying to make us forget that he had a real political legacy before all this Trump nonsense. And, you know, what he's saying makes no sense. I mean, the leftist plot to destroy Rudy Giuliani was so entrenched that the Justice Department got tricked into signing off a search warrant in 2019 before Joe Biden was president. It doesn't make any sense. And if you want a fun party game, every time Rudy Giuliani, you know, says this or brings up Hunter Biden's laptop, drink an entire bottle of wine, because that's the only way what he's saying makes any sense. The notion that he was acting at Trump's behest, just like we were talking about before, the political authority defense, is all stuff that I think is so counterproductive to what Donald Trump is trying to say. Everyone's pointing the finger at Trump.
I work alone, baby.
Everyone does, including your own lawyer. There might be something more going on there.
Professor?
I think it's also worth noting here that Rudy Giuliani...
Are you coming to get me, Joseph?
...president's lawyer during this period.
Or is that John?
There are very few lawyers who act entirely at the behest of their clients without any interest in what the actual law is. So if he is simply acting at the behest of a client and he's doing something that is potentially illegal or exposes him to criminal liability, that's really on him. So it doesn't really wash in either capacity.
Professor Murray and Neil Kochel, my thanks to both of you. There's a lot more here, including Senator Graham testing positive for COVID and using the moment we're going to show you to push people, including his Republican followers and constituents, to still get the vaccine. And a day of action with protests on the Hill fighting for voting rights. And tonight, my special report on policing in America with the evidence that you need to know as these debates continue. Stay with us.
Introducing the new City Custom Cash Card, a different kind of card that rewards Rashida wherever spending is trending. Just ask overly confident, DIY Rashida.
Wait, is this the right wall?
Or last-minute gift shopping, Rashida?
I'm putting a bow on it.
Even sneaking away for a vacay, Rashida?
I've earned this, okay?
From home improvement, drugstores, select travel, and more, earn 5% cash back that automatically adjusts to your top eligible spend category, up to $500 spent each billing cycle.
Hair loss getting real? HIMS can help. We can connect you to prescription treatments and hair care tailored to your needs. The process is simple and 100% online.
Oh, it got blown up already.
Medical history and hair loss, and a provider can determine whether prescription treatment is right for you. Then your order ships directly to your door. When it comes to finding your personalized hair loss solution, HIMS has you and your head covered. Your hair, your HIMS, your way. Grow new hair or your money back by visiting yourhims.com.
My hygienist cleans with a round head. So does my Oral-B. My hygienist personalizes my cleaning. So does my Oral-B.
Oral-B delivers the wow with a professional clean feel every day.
What does her ascension mean here?
Ask the simple question.
We think she is the first woman of color vice president.
Ask everyone you know what matters to them.
Where do we go from here?
Ask the why.
Why is this happening?
The how.
How do you get your politics? Please,
Look, wait a minute. Okay, be tough on the answer.
It was deliberate deceit.
Lucky. Me and these trucks usually have issues.
Over here, say.
Introducing the first ever AT4 lineup. Premium and capable. That's professional grade from GMC.
I am Robert Strickler. I've been involved in communications and the media for 45 years. I've been taking Prevagen on a regular basis for at least 8 years. For me, the greatest benefit over the years has been that Prevagen seems to help me recall things and also think more clearly. And I enthusiastically recommend Prevagen. It has helped me an awful lot.
Prevagen, healthier brain, better life. People love the Hurricane, the #1 selling cane from coast to coast.
I love my Hurricane.
I love how secure I feel with my Hurricane. They love how it helps them walk on any surface. They love how it stands on its own. They love how it folds and unfolds in seconds. I love my Hurricane. Order your Hurricane at our legendary low price with a 100% money-back guarantee plus free shipping. Go to hurricane.com. That's hurricane.com. Also,
thank you for the info.
Retailers.
Now run.
The smartest home gym.
Because there's a lot of them, brother.
Coaching, so you can be your strongest. Visit tonal.com.
My favorite thing about Prime is getting my paycheck up to 2 days early, which is really cool because I walk into
Come on!
I'm already posting that I got paid. My name is Dulce and I love Chime.
Download the Chime app today.
Come on! I had it. Couldn't heal fast enough. Dang it!
Turning to COVID news as we begin the week, and here's the bottom line. It's getting worse, and it's getting better. It's getting worse because of the ongoing surge. And it's getting better as vaccinations spike, partly because these worsening numbers are encouraging some people to finally go get protected. The other piece of news out of Washington is Trump's most prominent Republican ally in the Senate, Lindsey Graham, is not going MAGA when it comes to vaccines. The 66-year-old is using this news that he has a rare breakthrough case, he tested positive Saturday, to encourage people to still get their shots. Senator Graham noting accurately that while he does have mild symptoms on par with the flu, that itself is one of the benefits of vaccines. They prevent COVID most of the time. And in the rare cases where you can get it after the vaccine, the COVID you get is way less serious. Graham saying he's glad he's vaccinated, otherwise it would be far worse. And confirmation that Graham has at least 5 other senators who were with him attending an event on Saturday night. It was on a Democrat's House vote, Joe Manchin, a little bipartisanship socializing there. Now, we also know the pandemic among the unvaccinated is still the biggest problem here. And some are now finding that this summer, 2021, is worse for them than any point last year. Breaking records with its single worst day of COVID cases and its worst day of hospitalizations this weekend. Meanwhile, MAGA's Florida Governor DeSantis is still pushing back against safety protocols. And a Florida congressman who's been quite embattled lately, Matt Gaetz, is mocking health experts.
You got all the experts saying, well, look out for the Delta variant or the Lambda variant. Next is going to be like the Chi Omega variant or the Pi Kappa Psi variant. I got the Florida variant. I got the Freedom variant. It affects the brain. It gets you to think for yourself.
Move.
By all means, think for yourself. I don't know if that's supposed to be stand-up, but he's giving that speech in a place where more people are dying of COVID than just about anywhere else in America. Now, some other states that also maybe thought of as conservative are taking this more seriously. Louisiana is dealing with an outbreak, and it has done...
Oh, man, he died? I had to go back for that, dude?
Particularly with high rates of people who aren't vaccinated, they're reinstating the mask mandate indoors. But more Americans, as I mentioned, are getting vaccinated right now. We've had 5 straight days of more than 700,000 shots nationwide. Today, the White House, 70% of adults have gotten at least 1 shot. That's one of their milestones. And the science shows these are the vaccinations that work. 98 to 99% of the people who are dying now are unvaccinated. Now, the hesitancy is out there, and polling shows something that is relevant to all of this. The filter that people use for all sorts of issues seems to apply to this one. When it comes to just an outright no to vaccines, you can see only about 6% of Democrats view it that way. 31%, the remaining numbers you can see there. Republican state lawmaker David Byrne of Tennessee has a message for them. Last summer, he accused the mainstream media of sensationalizing this pandemic, but on Friday, after a fight with COVID that ravaged his organs and even required him to get a liver transplant, he did something that some people wouldn't even bother to do. He did choose to speak out. And he says vaccines should no longer divide us. People should get them. Does this kind of messaging, which is based on...
Come on. Lock.
Tries to find any way to move beyond vaccine availability, we're there. to get to Vaccine Trust. We have a very special guest, host Eugene Robinson and Dr. Rainey, when we're back in just 60 seconds.
From you touch it, you buy it, Dan, to first name basis with the delivery guy, Dan.
Okay, his name is Skipper. It's hard to forget. It's also a wonderful name.
The new City Custom Cash Card automatically adjusts to where your spending is trending.
What does her ascension mean to you?
Ask a simple question.
Everything. She is the first woman of color vice president.
Ask everyone you know what matters to them.
Punk.
Where do we go from here?
Ask the why.
Why is this happening?
The how.
How did you get your politics?
Look, wait a minute. Okay, be tough on the answer.
It was deliberate deceit.
They were facts over conspiracies and trust standards over hearsay.
Did I kill him? Did I kill him? Yes!
With engines that power planes more efficiently. Because seeing a better connected world isn't far in the future. We're building it now. GE, building a world that works.
And we're back with Pulitzer Prize-winning Washington Post columnist and writer Eugene Robinson and an ER physician, Dr. Megan Rainey. Welcome to both of you. Doctor, for those who keep very close counts of cable news etiquette, I'm going to change the way I've been doing COVID segments for the better part of a year and a half, where we always begin with the doctors. I'm going to begin with our Pulitzer Prize-winning communicator. And the reason is because, according to the polling, the data, and the science, Eugene, and a lot of what the White House is focused on right now, we have shifted from what in many ways was a public health race to find the vaccine and then get it out there, which is still the race in many less developed countries, less rich countries, to now what is chiefly a public health messaging and communications challenge, or as some put it, a crisis. I'm curious what you think about that shift and the different ways that people can use
definitely can I engage with this truck.
Images, video.
Get blown to smithereens.
To try to bring people on board, which of course you don't do by antagonizing them, even if they happen to be vaccine hesitant.
Well, that's true, Ari. First of all, I think it's definitely true. I mean, the vaccine is pretty much universally available now. You can get the vaccine if you want the vaccine. You can get it today. You know, within where I'm sitting now, within a half mile, there are a half dozen places where you can get the vaccine. Of course, it's completely free of charge, and it protects you from being hospitalized or dying from a deadly disease. So, how do you communicate that to people? How it better than just kind of saying that and laying it out? It's hard for me to understand. I'm at the point now where I think communicators keep saying what they've been saying, that this can save your life and it can save the lives of those you love. So get the vaccine, and the other track being mandates, especially employer mandates. We have one at the Washington Post. I'm really thankful for it. I was at a gathering of some Post people over the weekend. Everybody is thankful for it that I talked to, because it will let us all know when we go back into the office in September that we're all as protected as we can be from the Delta variant or whatever new variant may have arisen by then. It just makes sense. And you say it, repetition is important, so you say it over and over and over again. But I hope we see more employer mandates as well.
Yeah, I appreciate you're speaking about one of the other tools.
Shit, I didn't even do that.
Is the carrot and the stick in that sense, which is also, of course, designed for the safety of the affected population, be that a workplace or wherever. Doctor, take a listen to one of your counterparts, Dr. Fauci.
I don't think we're going to see lockdowns. I think we have enough of the percentage of people in the country, not enough to crush the outbreak, but I believe enough to not allow us to get into the situation we were in last winter. But things are going to get worse. We're looking to some pain and suffering in the future because we're seeing the cases go up.
What do you think of what he's getting at there, and what's your view on the public health messaging?
So I agree with Dr. Fauci that I think that future lockdowns are incredibly unlikely, at least with the Delta variant. You know, these vaccines still have enough efficacy, and 50% of us in America are fully vaccinated. I think we're going to be able to stave off the worst of the surge in most states. The way that Delta variant plays through, most models are saying that we're going to see these cases increase dramatically over the next 1 to 2 months. Our hope is that by the end of September or early October that we'll be in a much better space. Regarding communication, I am going to respectfully disagree with a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist. I think repetition is key, but I will also say from my experience, both as an emergency physician and as a public health professional, that listening is actually one of the keys here. You know, I take care of patients every day who have not yet gotten their vaccine, and I can often, but not always, shift them to being willing to take the vaccine during their emergency department visit by listening to their concerns, by being respectful, and by using really basic public health communication techniques.
I know you can.
Respectfully challenging, rolling with their resistance, and presenting new facts. We're doing this huge project here at the School of Public Health at Brown, working with 7 large urban communities across the country, where we're doing exactly this. We're working with trusted messengers, community-based organizations to increase vaccine uptake. Lots of stories of how this works. I don't think this is the time to give up. There's going to be a small percentage of people who will never get it, maybe until they see someone they love die, but a lot of folks just still have a lot of questions.
Well, and doctor, as a follow-up to you, that's a one-on-one in an expert-driven situation. One of the challenges here, and Gallup has a whole report about this.
What you want, Larry?
A lot of individuals who, just because of their daily life and their daily demands, are not accustomed to dealing with a lot of experts or scientific-based decision-making, are responding to Facebook media threads. If they don't have the benefit of an ER consult, then what?
I hope most people don't ever have to come into my ER, but that's absolutely true, and that's where I think it's essential for us to work
aliens,
with community-based organizations, so that you're talking to the folks that people do encounter every day. They're pastors, they're barbers, they're boys and girls clubs, they're teachers, they're librarians, they're bankers, right? So those folks. And then the social media influencers. The Biden-Harris administration is doing a huge rollout of TikTok stars, the people that my tween daughter listens to, and we're hoping that that's going to have some influence as well.
Obviously trying anything, these TikTok stars reach a whole different group of people. They're also doing these micro-influencers because what's popular in one place might not be the same nationally. Gene, finally, I want to put up the Biden approval on this issue. Joe Biden was seen by a lot of voters as better on this. He came in, as you can see, earlier in the year up in the 60s, which means by definition some more conservatives supporting him. It seems to be slipping a little bit. Democrats, Gene, are frustrated because they say it's partly a consequence of red state decision making in certain places where the surge is. We talked about Florida, and yet, Gene, at the end of the day, pandemics, a lot like the economy, the incumbent president's going to own them no matter what.
That's right, and I think those figures reflect a more sort of general frustration. A lot of people figured that by the summer, by the height of the summer, we'd be pretty much over it. That everybody be vaccinated and we'd be able to get about our normal lives. And now in a lot of places we're talking about indoor mask mandates again because of Delta. It is simply true that as science learns more, you have to adjust the response sometimes, and that's based on new information, and that's not a sort of very subtle or exotic thought, but it is, I think, coming as a disappointment and surprise to a lot of people that this is not in the rearview mirror, that COVID is still with us, and I think you see it in the numbers.
I think that's exactly right. Not in the rear view. To say nothing of the
shiz. Hey, heights.
Here. Gene, Doctor, thanks to both of you.
Shit you should not do.
Appreciate you guys. Next, we turn to that beat special report I mentioned at the top of the hour. Our team has been working hard on this and is reporting we don't think you'll see anywhere else on the news tonight. Civil rights and policing and why America's reckoning has not gone far enough. We have the evidence next.
Tell them niggas shit they already know.
That play out, at least for the next day or so as they make their way through this. Again, this is now a question of timing, how quickly this can wrap up. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said he wants to see it done by the end of the week. It remains to be seen if they can move that quickly. Again, this is an over $1 trillion bipartisan infrastructure bill, taking a peek at kind of what's inside of it and top lines. Broadband, $60
Come on.
Power infrastructure,
just not having a good luck with this shit.
And roads getting $110 billion, trains $66 billion, clean water $55 billion. So again, a lot of this hard infrastructure, well, that's what's in this bill, and it's looking good. Like I said, on the Senate side, the question is what will happen in the House. A lot of House progressives have said they want to see a reconciliation bill, which would have a lot of Democratic priorities in it, that gets put forth before they're willing to vote on this. That's where some of these questions will lead us to.
Well, important issues indeed. All right, Jessica, thank you very much. Let's discuss this and more with the Senate Budget Committee Chairman, Bernie Sanders. Senator Sanders, thanks as usual for joining us. As you know, the Senate is starting to consider various amendments to this $1 trillion plus infrastructure bill, but you only have a handful of days before the Senate recess. So how do you get this done?
By working very hard and working long hours. My hope and expectation is that this hard infrastructure bipartisan bill will get done by the end of the week, and then we will immediately turn to what we call the reconciliation bill, a bill which I think will have an extraordinarily positive impact on working families, and that will deal with the issues of extending the child tax credit, that $300 a month a check for working families for their kids, which has cut child.
Golly, blew myself up
by 61%.
Look at this mess. Like a whole brigade came after me for no reason. I mean, I did blow up.
Expand Medicare to cover dental care, eyeglasses, hearing aids. We're going to finally get
hold up.
Medical leave.
Got me a drink.
Affordable housing, and of course, this is horrible. Transforming our energy system away from fossil fuels.
This game was brought to you by Ice Holes.
We're going to create millions of good-paying jobs.
You say, Senator, there can be no infrastructure.
And I won't die. Hopefully.
Plus bill without a reconciliation bill. That's another.
Play this a little smarter.
But can moderate Democrats trust progressives to deliver the votes for infrastructure? And can you trust the moderates to back that $3.5 trillion deal that you want? This is really complicated.
It is. It is extremely complicated, and we look forward to the White House playing an active role in terms of making sure that we have the votes that we need to pass reconciliation. Unlike, obviously, the bipartisan bill, the reconciliation bill, which is really transformative. It begins to address the...
That's where it is. I'm going to get shot eating.
Congress has paid a whole lot of attention to the rich and the powerful and campaign contributors and ignored the needs of the working class in this country. So, having said that, and demanding that the wealthy stop paying their fair share of taxes, we're not going to get any Republican support. So we have 0 Democratic votes to spare. But at the end of the day, the House and the Senate are going to have to come together to do something which is overwhelmingly popular among working families. People are sick and tired of seeing the rich get richer and everybody else struggling. They want action, and we're going to give them what I think is long overdue.
Are you worried, Senator, that the House Speaker Nancy Pelosi will bow to pressure from moderate Democrats to decouple the infrastructure deal from the $3.5 trillion spending?
Well, Speaker Pelosi, I think, has been very strong, and what she understands it is that it is imperative that we pass both, that we cannot go forward with just the bipartisan bill. Look, to be very honest with you, Wolf, physically, I'm a former mayor, so I know a little bit about roads and sidewalks and bridges and all that stuff. It is terribly important. We have an enormous amount of work to be done in that area. But human infrastructure, the needs of working families and our children and our elderly, that's actually more important. So both of these bills have got to go forward together. And when we do that, we will create many, many good-paying jobs. And one of the things I'm really excited about is we go forward in transforming our energy system and trying to reverse climate change. We're going to create a civilian climate corps, which will provide hundreds of thousands of good-paying jobs for young people and give them the opportunity to lead the effort in trying to save this planet. So there's just a lot that we have to do. Now is the time to do it. And I will tell you that you got a lot of special interested drug companies who are going to lower the cost of prescription drugs, the healthcare industry, the fossil fuel industry, you name the big money interests are going to try to defeat us. But it's important that we hang in there together and that we pass this bill.
See what happens this week and in the coming weeks. Senator Sanders, thanks as usual for joining us.
Thank you.
Just ahead, it's reopening day for many schools in the COVID hotspot of Georgia. I'll ask the Atlanta Mayor, Keisha Lance Bottoms, there she is, how she's planning to keep students and teachers safe.
Come on to my house, I'm gonna give you candy. Come on to my house, I'm gonna give you apples somewhere in Africa to hide. Come on to my house, come on. Come on to my house, come on.
Finally, the doors that kept us apart can swing open again. The COVID-19 vaccines are here. It's up to you. My hygienist cleans with a round head.
Stop moving, Larry.
My hygienist personalizes my cleaning.
You can just stand still, Larry.
Delivers the wow.
Damn ass, man.
Every day.
For your best back-to-school smile, Crest has you covered.
Nice smile, right?
Crest, the #1 toothpaste
You straight tripping.
in America. I may have moderate to severe rheumatoid arthritis or psoriatic arthritis, but we are so much more. We're team players and artists, designers and do-it-yourselfers, parents and friends. If joint pain is getting in the way of who you are, it's time to talk to your doctor.
What? You mad they didn't stick a probe up your... What the hell? What's wrong with you?
Plus,
Larry?
can get clearer in psoriatic arthritis. Ask your doctor about Enbrel so you can get back to your true self. Enbrel may lower your ability to fight infections. Serious, sometimes fatal events, including infections, tuberculosis, lymphoma, other cancers, nervous system and blood disorders, and allergic reactions have occurred. Tell your doctor if you
Man, you suck, Larry.
infections are common, or if you're prone to infections, have cuts or sores, have had hepatitis B, have been treated for heart failure, or if you have persistent fever, bruising, bleeding, or paleness. Don't start Enbrel if you have an infection like the flu. Visit Enbrel.com to see how your joint damage could progress. Enbrel. Eligible patients may pay as little as $5 per month. Did you know that your fabrics trap more than just odors? They also trap bacteria. Better get new Febreze Fabric Anti-Microbial.
Shut up, Larry.
Its water-based formula penetrates fabrics to kill 99.9% of bacteria, and it eliminates odors. Spray it on your furniture, your rugs, your clothes. Wherever bacteria and odors hide. You can even sanitize your car seats. For a deeper clean and a freshness you'll love, try new Febreze Fabric Antimicrobial.
Ladies and gentlemen, the dollar bill just leveled up. I give you the future of commerce, presenting an ATM that converts cash into crypto instantaneously. No lengthy logins, money transfers, waiting periods, just one
Come on!
simple transaction.
Crypto's cool.
Go to PanFlip.tech to find an ATM near you. Isn't it disappointing when your plug-in fades? Once that freshness goes away, you're left thinking, okay, now what? Febreze Fade to 5 plug works differently. It's the first plug-in with built-in technology to digitally control how much scent is released to smell first day fresh for 50 days. It even tells you when it's ready to be refilled. Upgrade to Febreze Fade to 5 plug.
At USA,
Lucky.
we've been called to exclusive, because we only serve those who honorably serve.
All ranks, all branches, and their families. Yep, that is exclusive. We're fine with that.
Lord, here he goes.
It's back to school time in the COVID hotspot of Georgia. Let's talk about the challenges for the students, the teachers, the officials as the Delta variant hammers areas with low vaccination rates. Joining us now, the mayor of Atlanta, Keisha Lance Bottoms. Mayor, thank you so much for joining us. As you know better than I do, some of the Atlanta area schools, they're back in session.
Now, right now, my dude.
Today, others later in the week, some next week. How do you plan to keep kids, teachers, and staff safe this school year as this coronavirus transmission remains high and so many students are actually too young to be vaccinated?
Well, thank you for having me, Wolf. So let me be clear. I don't have purview over our schools as the mayor. We are a separate entity, but with the leadership of our superintendent in Atlanta, thankfully there will be a mask requirement for our kids. I have also signed an executive order requiring a mask mandate in the city of Atlanta. Atlanta and the state of Georgia still has some of the lowest vaccination rates in the country. In Georgia, we're about 46% fully vaccinated. City of Atlanta is a little better at about 49%. And the CDC has designated us as an area of high transmission. So it's important that we have a mask mandate in our city. And thankfully, we are on one accord with our school superintendent, who's also required a mask mandate in Atlanta public schools.
Yeah, I want to show our viewers that map of the vast majority of Georgia, including your city of Atlanta, in bright red, indicating a high level of community transmission. Yet your governor, Brian Kemp, says he will not issue any mask mandates or lockdowns. I know you're requiring masks in Atlanta, but just how difficult is it to change the course of this pandemic, or the message at the state level contradicts your message?
Well, it's the reason that we are so low in vaccinations and transmission is still so high. This is not a political issue. It's not a partisan issue. We are looking at data and metrics, and that's what our decision making is based upon. And so not only is the governor not requiring a mask mandate, he's doubling down on his position that somehow there's something wrong with our mask mandate in the city of Atlanta. And this is nothing new. I've been in battle with this governor before. If you recall, he filed a lawsuit against the city of Atlanta and me personally when I last instituted a mask mandate. It's my hope that we won't go down that path again. But I would just simply ask that you look at the science. This is about keeping people alive. I have 4 children, 2 of whom are not vaccine eligible, 1 who has severe asthma. So this is of grave concern, not just for people with underlying health conditions, but our children who are going back to school. And even in the metro area, there's some school systems that are making masks optional, but it's still a concern for parents and teachers throughout the state.
Such a serious problem. It's built a variant.
Still your money.
Good luck to everyone in Atlanta right now. Thanks for joining us.
Get down there.
Thank you.
Coming up, balls are growing right now for the House Minority Leader.
Ooh, that's gay.
The off-color comments he made that are causing outrage up on Capitol Hill. That's coming up.
That's funny as hell. Be better if it was 2 girls, because I'm a lesbian, but that's alright.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
That's a gay ass switch up.
How was that? The Suicide Squad. In theaters on HBO Max.
The American sitcom is how we tell stories about class.
We laugh at them and relate to them.
Rural sitcoms, the middle class, the 1%. Membership is currently at capacity.
History of the sitcom, tonight at 9 on CNN.
Lawrence of Arabia, the Arab Revolt, and the battle for Jerusalem. Jerusalem, city of faith and fury. And only
no,
10, only on CNN.
Man, I slept.
We gave NewZequel Pure Z's restorative herbal sleep to people who were tired of being tired.
I've never slept like this before. I've never woken up like this before.
I feel like doing things. And then doing other things after those things.
It's hard to explain. I'm just back.
What is even in this?
Clinically studied plant-based ingredients, passion flower, valerian root, and hops.
Dang it!
NewZequel Pure Z's restorative herbal sleep.
Need long-lasting freshness? Try new Febreze Unstoppables Touch Fabric Spray. It doesn't just eliminate odors. Simply shake and spray to unlock the breakthrough power of touch-activated scent technology that lasts even hours later. That's because Febreze Touch stores scent in your fabrics, so you get bursts of freshness with every touch. Your whole world will come alive. Welcome home to fresh with new Febreze Touch. Febreze, la 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 la.
Are your HR processes weighing down your employees?
Policy quarterly projections.
Expense report. If you're using multiple systems, re-entering data over and over, and using email and spreadsheets to manage information approvals, then your HR systems are a drag on productive time. With Paycom, employees enter and manage their own HR data in a single, easy-to-use software. Visit paycom.com and schedule your demo today.
Do they know this door is locked?
I may have moderate to severe rheumatoid arthritis or psoriatic arthritis, but we are so much more. We're team players and artists, designers and do-it-yourselfers, parents and friends. If joint pain is getting in the way of who you are, it's time to talk to your doctor about Enbrel. Enbrel helps relieve joint pain and helps stop permanent joint damage. Plus, Enbrel helps skin get clearer in psoriatic arthritis. Ask your doctor about Enbrel so you can get back to your true self. Enbrel may lower your ability to fight infections, serious, sometimes fatal events, including infections, tuberculosis, lymphoma, other cancers, nervous system and blood disorders, and allergic reactions have occurred. Tell your doctor if you've been someplace where fungal infections are common, or if you're prone to infections, have cuts or sores, have had hepatitis B, have been treated for heart failure, or if you have persistent fever, bruising, bleeding, or illness. Don't start Enbrel if you have an infection like the flu. Visit Enbrel.com to see how your joint damage could progress. Enbrel. Eligible patients may pay as little as $5 per month. Why new Woolite? Because it was specially formulated to protect synthetics and blends from damage in the wash, like fading, stretching, and pilling. New Woolite has Evercare, a first-of-its-kind formula that keeps today's fabrics looking like new. New Woolite with Evercare.
Follow the evidence.
What is your turning point in forensic history?
Crack the case.
People can lie. Forensic science cannot.
New back-to-back episodes of Forensic Files 2. Sundays at 10, only on HLN.
Come on, man. Too late, buddy. I would.
Some Capitol Hill lawmakers are not calling for the House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy to resign after an off-color remark he made should he become the Speaker of the House. Let's discuss with CNN political commentators Van Jones and Nia Love. They're both joining us right now. Nia, as a former Republican Congresswoman, does it bother you to see the GOP leader of the House making jokes like this, rallying the party around attacks on the House Speaker, especially when she was actually threatened back on January 6th?
Well, of course it does. I think anytime anybody makes any threat of another member of Congress or anybody, it's definitely alarming. I honestly believe that those two, there's a genuine dislike. Nancy Pelosi calls Kevin McCarthy a moron. Everybody is just, they need to stop acting like high schoolers and really just start acting like legislators. There are some people that really need their leadership right now, and
for these leaders to go out and just say what they're saying is, I think, childish and uncalled for and inappropriate.
This relationship, Van, between Pelosi and McCarthy seems to be at an all-time low. I've covered Congress for a long time. As Mia points out, Pelosi publicly called McCarthy a moron because of his position on masks and COVID just last week. How badly, Van, have things deteriorated?
Well, quite badly. It's really a shame. I mean, Kevin McCarthy knows better. I mean, those of us who know him when he's not playing to the cheap seats and, trying to court Donald Trump and doing all this weird stuff he's doing because he's just so interested in becoming Speaker of the House. Even if he destroys the House in the process, it destroys, faith in democratic process in the process. Look, I think this is very, very bad because you look at what's not getting done. You look at the fact that all these evictions are going to happen now because they weren't able to get stuff done. This kind of playing to the cheap seats and that kind of stuff, it has real consequences for real people when governing is not happening.
This comes to me as we've just learned of a third suicide of a police officer who responded to the January 6th attack up on Capitol Hill. We don't know why this police officer took his life, but is this all a reminder that there were obviously real-world implications to all the political rhetoric that's thrown around out there?
Hands down, absolutely. Anytime a person who has a platform says something, they have to be careful because there are implications. Well, I knew these people, and there are specific members, there are specific police officers right now, Capitol Hill police officers, that I have no doubt would have given their lives to make sure that I was safe. These are people with children, with wives, with one wife, with children, and they really just want to do their job, and we have to understand that there's a human aspect behind this. It's just really upsetting to me that members of Congress don't really take that into consideration. They need to start acting like adults and understand that there's so much more that they need to do.
What's your take now?
I think heroes should be embraced, and I think they should be celebrated. I think they should be hugged and held and healed. When you go through something like that and half the country doesn't come to your side, I mean, look at our people who are veterans, who lose their way. These are people who had one of the worst experiences of their lives, broadcast on global television, and to have half the country possibly saying what you went through, you didn't go through, it doesn't help with the healing. It doesn't help with the healing. So it's really sad.
Very sad indeed. All right, guys, thank you very much. We'll have more news just ahead, including gymnast Simone Biles set to return to the Olympics for one final Olympic event. But Team USA is saying this.
I thought I should prepare my family.
We came out here after the pandemic started.
We're trying to build a community who can build this place together.
The Bunker Boom, a CNN film short, Saturday at 9 Eastern.
Sometimes you might not feel ready for the moment. Is Roman at your side?
You got this.
You can take care of erectile dysfunction discreetly. So that you're ready. Roman ready.
Well, would you look at that?
It was an accident.
Speaking of accidents, I accidentally left you off the insurance policy during enrollment and you're not covered.
Not even a little bit? No insurance.
Come on, I hit him.
Their own benefits enrollment information. It gives you
I thought so.
I even...
With Paycom, employees enter and manage their own HR data in a single, easy-to-use software. Visit paycom.com and schedule a demo today.
Did you know that every single flush bleeds odors onto your soft surfaces? Then they get released back into the air, so you smell them later. Ew, right? That's why Febreze created small spaces. Press firmly.
Shoot the dog!
Work. Unlike the leading cone.
Dang it, I got hit with a blitz bullet.
Eliminates odors in the air and on surfaces, so they don't come back for 45 days.
Die. Eat me real quick. Oh, let me die. Dang it! Didn't die quick enough.
James Gunn has been unleashed. His epic new vision of the Suicide Squad is like nothing we've seen before. The Suicide Squad, 50 years on HBO Max. Rated R.
With the timeless protection of ADT, it's safe to say, hey Google, unlock the front door.